Hi everybody. Wow, what the last couple of weeks, hey? Videos you've been watching are old videos, and so this is before what's happened, and so I sound quite happy. The problems were still there, but I've been at my mum's. I turned up as a visit knowing he was very ill, but when I looked at him I thought I can't go home, and about 3 or 4 days later died. And I saw my dad die, and it was horrible as far as I'm concerned. The whole thing, they're saying it was peaceful, but if that's what has to happen to you to get to the other side, I'm sorry, that's all horrible. Really horrible. But anyway, never actually seen someone die, so, in this video, if I sound a bit, I don't know, I feel a bit of me's missing right now, but if I sound a bit flat, I made a video about the church, and it was okay at the beginning not to mention it, because then nobody knows. I can pretend. But it's happened nearly 2 weeks ago now. Maybe it's best just to say something, but that's what's been happening in my life. But anyway, all this stuff about this church, which is in Laxfield, and bones, and crypts, and all these things, it just all fitted into this video. By accident it is, because we went to this church a few days after my dad had died. So we were going there. I mean, obviously my mum believes more, that obviously she prayed to God and whatever, but it's a little bit different to what we think. But I did see that, but I just had to take some photographs and make a video, because I was really, really shocked at the stones on the floor leading up to the altar, that the dates on them. Some of them, or one brass one, went back to 1606, and a lot of them were in the 1600s, and some were in the 1700s. Of course, the ones outside are in the 1800s, 17 and 1800s. But I kind of have a theory now, and this is also because Mickey was helping me on the other one. Weren't you, Mickey? But we had to do it again because I picked this song. What is it? The Ink Spots.
Yeah.
What's the song called again?
I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire.
Yeah, I learnt that was one of my dad's favourite songs that we're going to play at his funeral. But I didn't know that. So to me, that's an old song. How old is it? 1930s.
Yeah.
They copyrighted
Lovely, right?
1.5 minutes of it. The whole video. I made loads of videos. I've got to do them all again. Because you take that bit out and then I'll copyright the next few bits. And by the time we finished, we may as well have done what we're doing now.
Destroyed the video.
But anyway, it's crazy. Sorry, I've got to now, because obviously I recorded this video, but we're having to record it again. But we're outside this church in Laxfield. I was very shocked at how different the steeple was to the rest of the church. And that this church had been really built on. And at the back, the ground was raised up. And I thought, oh, even out here where my parents live, oh right, it's still the same out here as well. The church is on raised ground. Sometimes the church will meet the top, but they've somehow done what they've done at the time they were building them. So it's not because it's on some hill. It's because
they want the church at higher ground, so from the town you can see the church in the time. A bit like my one.
Well, I don't know. Oh, here we go. We're moving now. So inside the church, we were looking at things like this, right? And Mickey thought that looked like a boat upside down.
Done by boat carpenters, no doubt.
And then see on the floor here, there are J69J. And it says Anno Domo J 69, whatever the other numbers are. So what is a J? Is it an I? My mum's going, it's an I. And I was going, well, it's a J, Mum. No, it's an I. So we were like that when we were in this church.
It would have been a part of the English language with the I's and the J's. There was some sort of confusion.
Yeah, see J770. I've only taken a little bit. The other video, which is out now, that has a lot more in it. See, Anno Domini J699. So there's a gap between the J and the 6.
Domini.
So it's an I then.
That means the year.
Well, it says 699 then. But everybody thinks it's a 1699.
Added 1,000 years.
And that's in my mum and dad's.
They added 1,000 years.
But that's in my mum and dad's house, and this is the Lancaster and
Wow.
and York time, which is the War of the Roses,
Yeah.
before the War of the Roses.
Your plaque is actually on one of these.
Well, the sheep. I looked at
shield.
it. They have wheat. They have wheat
That's it,
things.
the 3 wheat bales and the
There was,
three,
anyway. It's in the
X's.
other video, Mickey. But you see, all those are on the floor in this church. It's not the most. That's where I'm looking back from. Is
Add-ons,
here. You're looking back from this end, looking back. But anyway, the point of this was, I noticed that this land. See, there it goes. 1557. Is that a fire or is that crops? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a train.
No, at the top of the at the top of the
sorry,
plaque.
sorry.
You'll have to wait for another time now, Mickey.
It
Oh,
seems
look.
to have a lot of industrial, like, trains, horse carriage.
Yeah. So there's a
There's
few
a
things
train
there.
there.
Nice building. It's even got a train.
The original train.
This is the pub. So look who's on the pub. We're back to these eras.
Chelsea. That's a Chelsea pensioner sitting next to the king.
King Henry the whatever it was. And look, your buildings are like that in
Yeah. Add on. Yeah, again.
No,
you
the
can
church
see
is there
from
with
here.
buildings outside. Carl Shilton's the same.
Oh God, yeah. In 3 windows on the side again as well, isn't it?
Well, all those windows are different, and I mentioned that in the other one, and that was to show you, that was a little school, but that's in the other video. But you see here, everything's different. Bits have been built on at different times, and that's the land that's up. So you see a little river, but they're all down there, those houses.
Yeah.
So it's actually a huge, well, this is what we're getting to in a minute. There's a reason why it all fits in.
Yeah, it just seems to be...
So I was at this church looking at this. My dad had just died, so I'm not really in a very good mood, and it's whizzing around my head. But, I was dealing with other things at the time, and your relief is to, oh, I know what that is now. But you can see those houses are lower, and they're lower on the other side. It's the same thing. We have a church in Thatcham that's the same. Mickey and I have been to that.
Yeah.
His church is the same, which we're going to show in a moment. But all those are down there. There we go. All Saints Church. And the churches have got the same name.
I can see the clock from my house. From that house.
All Saints Church is built up on top of land. And I'm going to explain why that is now. Now you can see that one. See, this man's walking up to the church.
You can also go lower down there.
Yeah, it's lower on the pavement, but he's walking up to the
See this
church.
little path here? They've got gravestones down there.
Yeah.
I think that's the
See,
original
there's the bank.
crypt.
And the reason this is happening is, this is what I think I've worked out, and this is why we don't see people buried until the maybe 17 into 1800s, is because under the churches are crypts. So that's where they buried everybody, was under the church. And here along the A4 we have a little church that's not been built on. So obviously these were like little temples to go in, to go down to the crypt, to see everybody buried in the crypt. So these people, obviously there was less of them than there are now, there's obviously more of us now. Something must have happened for them not to go down to the crypts, to bury the people in the crypts. They buried them in the land instead. Is that a flood? 1700s? We've got to the 1700s and there being floods.
Yeah, that's the...
Were all these things flooded out? But under nearly every church, especially, in London, we're going to show a church in London, they've all got crypts underneath them. And theirs could be in a few different levels under the church.
Oh, definitely.
So they were burying everybody in the crypts, in those great big sort of, what do you call them, vampire-like coffins, huge things. But then they didn't. So what happened for them not to do it? Then they started, no wonder they wanted them in those brass things, looking like they were deep sea diver things.
Mm-hmm.
Those coffins. Because you're burying them on top of the land. But if you put them in one of those, they'll last longer. And they are airtight in those coffins. Here we go. See, it's to hide. The vault is there to hide the bodies. So everybody was put in the crypt. And this is why all churches are risen, because under the churches are crypts where the people were buried.
Yeah, it's like...
But they might have been pagan then. These might have been pagan people.
Pagans are sort of...
No, I don't see that. They don't have... Don't forget, they acquired the buildings, turned them into churches. A lot of them were pagan buildings first. These people in history seem to have taken over. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But, everything's got to be in a crypt of some kind. Even that coffin is a crypt. But they were big crypts underneath. Look, these are crypts in places. Look at that. You didn't even have a wedding reception in the crypt. I don't think I'd like that.
Been down that one.
Would you like to have a wedding reception? No.
No. Because it has. When you go down here, it's like being under the, like them tombs in the pyramids in Egypt. You know, it's just dark.
Yeah. Well, it isn't now. I've got lights and everything. But see, all these churches, these are crypts you're looking at under the churches. Even St Paul's Church in London, that has the biggest crypt. Largest in Europe. There you go. And then we get to this. Oh my goodness, I might stop this. Ricky was really upset about this. Because what it is we're told that this, when you see it, we're talking of Paris.
Yeah, our usual catacomb, Paris.
And everybody knows about that. And what's the stories?
The one in, was it Prague, the other one? The church that made out of all the bones?
That's Poland.
Poland, that's it.
So what we're told is that the reason they look the way they do is that the bodies were running down the streets, overflowing all over everybody, coming out the cemetery, and this is why they had to put the bodies and bits like they did. But Christian will look at it and go, well, they look like trophies to me. And what are they? Skull and bones, which we already done that on Sun and Moon. They were
saying they were military soldiers as well.
Or they said some of them were this, some of them were soldiers. Yeah. So they,
a little bit of children.
But what they reckoned was that when that man was looking, do you remember? What you're looking at is a cross-section of people where 10% were children, and this is a normal amount of people dying in the times that they've said. Because they wondered whether they were soldiers and all sorts of things, but they came to the conclusion that it was, with the amount of people they're seeing, 2,000 whatever it is, that actually was the population dying. But none of them looked old. You know, like most of the skeletons don't really. But why are these skeletons all in bits? There is nearly 5,000 people here, which means it's bigger than Paris. Anyways, put the video because it's not very long.
In religion, the people want to be close to God.
So why would you do this to them?
Be inside the church is like an honour.
So why isn't their heads with their bodies?
I don't know. This is the $1 million question, isn't it?
Look at that. There's even pots with bits of body in it under those eaves, and we know those eaves are old. Look at it. I'd say mass extermination if you were asking me. And then they tried, I don't know why they kept any of the bodies.
The crazy thing is that the skulls are all the same sort of size, you know, you can tell the child's size.
Well, they said most of them were women.
That's it. You know what I mean?
I mean, that doesn't really look like a woman, does it?
You'll get that sort of pattern in the catacombs in France, you know, making that pattern. Are they creating an energy or something, you know?
They said most of the skulls were women.
We want to be more like the skulls.
Don't you think the skulls would be a bit different to that?
Yeah, they would be for women. Not smaller.
So basically, just dumped. Yeah, that one they just got dumped down there. It's like, quick, throw the body in and get out of there. Look at that.
To me, that looked like a water reservoir.
And then you do have churches in Poland with there you go. I think this one is Poland. There you go. And that one's Portugal. There's one in Portugal as well.
Bone chandeliers.
Those are real people in there.
Bone chandeliers for bones.
But this one was in Hyde, Kent.
That's why that's what I can't get. It's in England.
Let's have a look. We're going to go back here because the video's going to finish in a minute. Let's go back here. So
yeah, this being in England, it
so I'm saying that all the people I feel were buried in the crypts, and even you can see all those people. But what really got me about those bones was that there was no clothes, no meat. They were just already. It's like we're in that film Time Machine. You know, when they all march off to go and get eaten.
If I was to look at those bones, I look for knife marks, cut marks on the bone.
Well, it's nothing to do. So why are those bones washed then?
They
why are they washed?
Well, because it's like, you know, if the body is like it's a ball of pus, it's poisonous, you know, and stinks. So somehow they, you know.
But when we died, my dad kind of mummified when he died, so people would just get stiff. I don't think. Yeah, maybe the insides. Yeah, okay. You said that was Roman, didn't you? That.
Yeah, the style in it. Yeah, and the style of it being dug.
Yeah, but we weren't maybe living in as enemies then. We were getting on supposedly. But anyway, these are to show you that nearly all churches have these crypts underneath, and crypts was the hidden room. So they were putting them there, so they weren't really on show. But maybe that's better because Now we look at the place we are. There's so many statues to dead people. All we're living in is a dead person's place. We're just the sort of alive ones until we're dead. But what I worked out was all the people were buried in the crypts. There was obviously less people. And, there was less people. And then something happened where they didn't bury them in the crypts. And so the end of the 1700s into the 1800s, they started burying them on top. But they definitely had J's. The J's went back to an I, and it could be the old language, and so they were always an I, but they look like a J. But that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, no.
Why do we have a J?
They couldn't make up their mind. That's the thing.
They've got A's and E's joined together. That's what
writing.
ITA writing, they taught me. That's what that's like.
Yeah, probably in the same way then. Yeah,
so it's slightly Gaelic then, sort of. But anyway,
they say it's like when they were...
We're just going back to the bones. I went back a bit far, but we've been talking now. But it did kind of upset me a bit because, I've only seen that place in Paris looking like that. But I couldn't get over. That's what I realised, that underneath the churches are these crypts. Every church has one. Where? So the churches were for burying people, so they might not have even been churches. The bigger ones with the wheels in them, that's different. But look at this. This looks worse than Auschwitz. This looks worse than Auschwitz. How could anybody be happy with that?
Or similar. Yeah, it's just in...
How do they know there's 4,000 people in there? It looks like thousands and thousands and that. Look at there's so many bits of body. This is disgusting. But we never know the history properly, do we? I mean, look at it.
It's not advertised on the telly, I'll tell you that. I don't think they would they?
So if you want to know, it's the Crypt of St Leonard's Church, Hythe, Kent, has the largest collection of bones. It's bigger than the one in Paris.
No. No, not really.
Yes, it is. Look, it just said it.
No.
Go back, because Mickey didn't want to see it.
Paris has
the largest collection of ancient human bones. The largest collection they have in Hythe.
Well, that's in England, yeah. France, you ain't going to beat the French one.
No, because there's only 3,000 people buried in that one. Oh, only. It sounds horrible, doesn't it? And the other thing they put in is that some of the people might have died from the Black Plague or something like that. So that's maybe why there's quite a lot of bodies. But then, why would you... I don't know. Would you put them in the crypt or would you burn them? I don't know, because they're contaminators.
I'd like to know if you had a plague and everyone's has a house that's a mile apart from everyone.
I mean, does that look like a woman to you, that one?
It could be a child.
Well, it looks like a man to me.
So you need to be there. If you put your hand over it, it's a child.
These were people. These were human beings.
See my hand over my face?
How long ago? When? Why? Look at all those bits down the bottom shelf. This is disgraceful. It's not just Paris that's got them.
It's like a reservoir to me. Yeah? Like an underwater reservoir.
What, were they supposed to be washed out?
No, it's for water.
Well, that's not. That's the crypt. And all the crypts.
Taken over, bones and all that. The crypts were there in the beginning before that church was there. I know that. And you know that. In Doomsday. Yeah. So as they do, they come along.
So how old's the church? Look at it. They're pagans, these places. They were pagan places. They could have been buried pagan way, and then that's why they wouldn't go down there, because they're a different religion. It's all different. We're not touching them.
This is the thing. There's many
I don't know.
There's many parts,
We're finishing now, Mickey. We're finishing now. So, on this section here, we're finishing. So, what's your thoughts, everybody? Like, how can we have these skulls and that in a church, and you can go and see them? But it all started in Laxfield. This is when my thoughts started this time. It was a few weeks ago when I went there after my dad had died. And just want to say that, bless my dad. It's my little tribute to my dad. Bless my dad. And, it was horrible. It's changed me a bit as a person. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's numb, but something's going on in there. But, you never know how much you're going to miss someone until they're not there anymore. And he's gone now, and I miss him much more than I thought I would. But there you go. Anyway, thanks for watching this bit.